Imagine, for just a second, that you are on a ship. And I mean,
Yeah.
this isn't just any ship, it is immense, so unimaginably massive that you don't even really realize you're on it.
Right. It's just your whole world.
Exactly. You're just sitting in your cabin. Maybe you visit your specific neighborhood on deck 4. You commute to work on deck 7. You raise your family. You think of your specific corridor as the entire universe, basically.
Yeah. And everything seems fine on the surface, right?
Right. The engines are running flawlessly, the lights are blazing, kitchens are serving food, the ship is cutting through the water faster than it ever has in its entire history. But, and this is the key, if you stop for just a moment and you place your bare hand flat against the steel wall of your cabin, you can feel it.
Just the tiny vibration.
Yeah, a faint, barely perceptible vibration in the hull. It's nothing that sets off a klaxon or, triggers a general alarm, but it's just enough to tell you that somewhere, deep down in the unseen mechanics of this vessel, something is fundamentally off.
It's a chilling image, honestly. Primarily because it speaks to the illusion of our own independence. I mean, we tend to operate under the assumption that we're just living our isolated lives, completely disconnected from the engine room or the navigation bridge or even the shifting currents outside.
And that image is the central pulsing metaphor of
Yeah.
our deep dive today. We are pulling from some incredibly ambitious source material. It's excerpts from the 2026 book, The Ideal World by Michele Piano. And when I say ambitious, I mean this isn't just a physical book.
No, it's massive.
It's an entire ecosystem.
Mhm.
The author has built a project that includes a 70,000-page digital Weo book, a documentary film, and something called the Win-Win Game, which we'll get into. But our mission today is to unpack this radical blueprint. It's a roadmap for moving humanity out of this era of fragmented, individualistic technology and into a highly collaborative, human-centric ecosystem.
Which is quite the leap.
Huge leap. Okay, let's unpack this. Because what Paradiso is arguing is that this isn't simply a matter of swapping out a few bad economic policies or buying a new set of servers. The author is talking about a fundamental shift in how we, as a global crew, operate on this ship.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are standing exactly at the threshold of a massive historical transition. We are navigating the leap from Industry 4.0 to what the author calls Revolution 5.0.
Right.
But to understand where this roadmap is trying to take us, we first have to understand the specific ways in which our current map is utterly broken.
Which brings us to the diagnosis of the ship, basically. The source material points out that, look, we have achieved incredible things. It would be ridiculous to say the current system hasn't worked at all.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we built the global internet. We have instant telecommunications. We have advanced medicine that would look like literal magic to our grandparents. But the author argues that we are suffering from something called the specialization paradox.
Yeah, that term is so perfectly descriptive.
It really is. We've become so hyper-focused on our specific narrow fields of expertise that we view the world in these watertight compartments. The economy is in one box, the environment is in another, technology is over here, society is over there.
And the problem being that reality simply does not operate in watertight compartments.
Yeah.
Reality operates through relationships. The text uses a really poignant phrase, "We are watching the waves without seeing the sea."
Oh, wow. I like that.
Right? Because we treat crises as isolated events. We assume, say, an energy crisis is just an energy crisis.
Right.
But the domino effect is instantaneous.
It's all connected.
Exactly. A geopolitical shock spikes the cost of energy. That immediately hits factory production. Slower production creates scarcity, which impacts consumer prices.
And then the families feel it.
Yeah, higher prices squeeze local families, who then change their consumption habits, which ripples out to close local businesses. Suddenly, the entire global economy is reacting to what started as a localized political dispute. We keep trying to use linear logic, finding a specific broken part and applying a specific isolated fix to solve problems that are inherently systemic.
Okay, let me push back on this a little bit, though.
Sure, go for it.
Hasn't extreme specialization been the very engine of our modern progress? I mean, if I need heart surgery, I want a hyper-specialized cardiovascular surgeon who only looks at human hearts for 12 hours a day.
Right, of course.
I don't want a generalist who is simultaneously worrying about the hospital's carbon footprint and the local supply chain while they literally have a scalpel in my chest. Specialization works, doesn't it? That's why we don't die of minor infections anymore.
And the source text absolutely acknowledges the triumphs of specialization for specific tasks. Your heart surgeon is highly effective at their specific job. The counterpoint the author makes is that we have masterfully perfected the individual gears, but we have completely stopped asking how the entire mechanism is supposed to function together.
Ah, okay. The mechanism as a whole.
Right. What good is the world's best heart surgeon if the hospital's power grid fails due to a systemic energy crisis, or if the medical supply chain collapses? Because we only focus on the gears, we have fallen into a measurement paradox. We obsessively measure what is visible and quantitative.
And this is where the author brings up the idea of invisible metrics, which, it's a bit counterintuitive, but it makes a lot of sense once you dig into it.
It really does. Consider what we prioritize on a national scale. We measure economic growth, productivity, financial returns, mass consumption. We have massive dashboards for GDP.
Right, the number's going up.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But we entirely ignore the invisible elements that actually hold the community, the crew of the ship together. We don't measure collective trust. We don't measure collective responsibility or the capacity to cooperate.
Which are huge.
Massive. If a society has high GDP but zero trust, transactions slow to a crawl, legal costs skyrocket, and contracts take months to negotiate. Trust is a literal economic lubricant. A ship can have the most advanced engines ever built, but if the crew stops trusting each other, the navigation route is lost. We're basically using an obsolete map for modern complexity.
Which perfectly sets up this shift to Revolution 5.0. I mean, Industry 4.0, which is basically the era we are trying to graduate from, was entirely about efficiency. It was pure automation, mass production, getting machines to do things faster and cheaper.
Right, cold efficiency.
Yeah. But Revolution 5.0, as the author describes it, isn't really a technological leap at all, is it?
No, not at all. Revolution 5.0 is framed here as a philosophical and social leap.
Yeah.
Industry 4.0 gave us the technological instruments. But 5.0 is about humanizing those instruments. It places human beings and what the author calls integral ecology back at the absolute center of development.
And integral ecology is a concept the author explicitly draws from papal encyclicals. It's this argument that society, the environment, and the economy are completely inseparable. You can't heal one while destroying the other.
They're all tied together.
Exactly. To achieve that kind of holistic balance, the overarching social logic has to change. We have to move from the paradigm of I to the paradigm of WE. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because when you read the phrase from I to WE, it sounds like a nice, warm, philosophical bumper sticker.
Yeah, a big cliche.
Right. But the book treats it as a hard, mathematical, operational blueprint. Think about how we currently operate, almost like a game of Monopoly. Monopoly is the ultimate I paradigm. It's a zero-sum win-lose game where the only way I succeed is by hoarding limited resources, charging you rent, and eventually bankrupting you.
And the WE paradigm represents the exact opposite of that Monopoly board. It relies on structured collaboration, and the author builds this new paradigm on a few core principles, the foundational one being John Nash's win-win logic.
Right. This is the mathematician John Nash, famous for his work in game theory.
That's the one. Nash mathematically proved that pure, unbridled competition is actually less efficient than structured cooperation. The text points out that we have to overcome this modern illusion that one person's success must necessitate another person's defeat.
That zero-sum mindset.
Exactly. When actors in an economic or social system stop obstructing each other and seek a shared equilibrium, think of, say, two competing bakeries deciding to share a local delivery fleet rather than each buying their own trucks. The collective benefit actually produces a higher, more sustainable yield for the individual, too.
So cooperation isn't just a moral imperative. The math literally proves it is superior.
Yes, the math backs it up.
And the author then connects that mathematical logic to human biology, specifically the role of empathy. But again, they strip away the idea of empathy as just a warm, fuzzy feeling, right?
They do. The text frames empathy as a biological reality and a strategic competency. It points to neuroscience and the discovery of mirror neurons. And when you see someone get a paper cut, you physically wince.
Ugh. Yeah, I can feel it just thinking about it.
Right. Your brain fires as if it is happening to you. This confirms that human beings have a natural biological predisposition for cooperation. It is a survival mechanism. Empathy, therefore, is the necessary infrastructure to mend the social crack between those who make decisions and those who suffer the consequences of those decisions. It forces the decision-maker to feel the impact of their choice.
But when we ignore that biological wiring, we end up with indifference. And the author leans on the philosopher Antonio Gramsci here, who famously called indifference the dead weight of history. It's the apathy that allows systems to fail.
It drags everything down.
Exactly. If we are moving to the WE paradigm, we have to stop being passive spectators on this ship. We can't just sit in our cabins, feel the vibration in the hull, and hope someone else goes down to the engine room to fix it.
And this entire shift, from competition to empathy to active participation, must fundamentally change how we build technology. Take artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge topic right now.
In the old individualistic model, AI is viewed as an autonomous replacement for human labor. You implement it to maximize isolated efficiency and eliminate payroll. But in the 5.0 model, the author proposes something called the Inspire model, where AI acts as an empathetic compass.
Wait, how does an AI act empathetically?
Well, instead of an algorithm autonomously firing workers, imagine an AI decision support system in a hospital. It rapidly analyzes patient data to prioritize care, but it leaves the final diagnosis and bedside manner entirely to the human doctor. It amplifies human potential and supports ethical decisions rather than replacing human judgment.
What's fascinating here is the natural pushback people have to this. A lot of people fear that moving from I to WE means surrendering your individuality, that you just become a faceless cog in a collective utopian machine. But the source text argues the exact opposite.
Right, it enhances it.
Yeah. Moving to WE doesn't destroy the individual, it evolves them. Your individual value is only fully expressed and amplified when it's connected to a network. It's like a forest. A forest doesn't exist because of a single tree, but every single tree grows taller and thrives better because of the interconnected root system sharing nutrients beneath the soil.
That interconnected root system requires maintenance, however. I mean, the philosophy is sound, but it raises the immediate question of logistics. If we are literally changing the operating system of the entire ship, who is at the wheel executing this change?
Exactly. Who is actually managing this? Because the source material specifically elevates a very surprising role for this transition. They point to the business analyst. And I have to ask, why the business analyst? Why not the CEO who sets the vision? Or the project manager who is usually in charge of getting things done on the ground?
The text makes a very deliberate distinction here, and we can look at it through the lens of building a new city. Think of the project manager as the foreman of a construction crew. Their job is to execute a blueprint. The parameters are already set, the goal is defined, and their mandate is to build the walls on time and under budget.
They're purely managing the how.
Yes, exactly. But the business analyst operates much further upstream. They are the urban planner.
Oh.
Before a single shovel hits the dirt, the urban planner has to figure out if a house should even be built on that specific plot of land. They have to analyze the water tables, the local traffic patterns, the environmental impact, and the community's housing needs. They have to harmonize incredibly diverse variables: technical, marketing, regulatory, cultural, social, and environmental. The business analyst has to design the overarching business model and define the course of the ship long before the project manager ever executes the construction. They are the conductors of sustainable innovation.
And the text points out that these analysts act as a crucial bridge, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs. We know that a massive multinational corporation might have the billions required to transition their operations to a 5.0 model, but a local manufacturing plant doesn't.
No, they don't have that kind of capital.
Right. So the business analyst steps in to connect academic research and government funding directly with local businesses. And they do this using something called the value stream method. Now, earlier I might have just called this financial alchemy, but let's actually look at how it works.
The mechanics of the value stream method are quite brilliant, really. A business analyst goes into an SME and maps out their entire operational process. They identify where the company is wasting money, maybe it's inefficient supply chains or outdated machinery that consumes too much power. They quantify that exact waste.
Okay, so they find the leaks.
Right. But instead of just cutting that cost and handing it back to the owners as profit, that specific saved capital is mathematically earmarked and legally ring-fenced specifically for research and development.
So the SME doesn't need to take out massive new loans to innovate. They literally self-fund their evolution into 5.0 by optimizing their past ordinary operating costs. It allows the little guy to participate in the ecosystem without going bankrupt, which perfectly tees up the ultimate question of the book, the implementation problem. How do we actually build this globally? The author openly admits that understanding a systemic problem is not the same thing as knowing how to solve it. You can read 100 books about collaboration and still be a totally selfish person in your day-to-day life.
To bridge the gap between vision and reality, the project relies on the biomimetic principle.
Biomimetic meaning from nature.
Right. Biomimicry means modeling solutions on nature. If a forest is dying, nature doesn't fix it with a single isolated intervention like just painting the leaves green. It requires a holistic adjustment of the soil, the water cycle, and the sunlight simultaneously. To move this vision from abstract theory to concrete reality, the book lays out a 5-phase architecture.
Let's weave through these phases because they form a clear progression. You can't just build a new system, you have to get people to understand it first. That requires a shared language, which the author identifies as narration. Phase 1. Numbers and data rarely change human behavior on their own. We need stories, books, films, documentaries. They make the invisible systems visible. Before you can change a paradigm, everyone has to be able to see the paradigm and talk about it using the same terms.
But simply hearing a story isn't enough to change entrenched behavior. People need to feel the consequences of their actions. This moves us into phase 2, the realm of experience, which is where that win-win game comes in.
Right, the interactive laboratory.
Exactly. Instead of just lecturing stakeholders about Nash's game theory, you put them in a simulation. They have to make resource decisions, and they physically see how their selfish choices immediately harm the broader system, and how collaborative choices yield better long-term results for themselves. It turns an abstract mathematical concept into a felt competence.
Once people understand it and feel it, you need the tools to actually scale it. That's phase 3 technology. The author focuses heavily on the implementation of integrated digital platforms, specifically utilizing digital twins.
Digital twins are fascinating.
They really are. A digital twin is a virtual replica of a physical system. Imagine a mayor wanting to change the traffic flow of an entire city to reduce emissions. Instead of just pouring concrete and hoping it works, they run the policy through the digital twin of the city. The technology supports human judgment, allowing decision makers to foresee the systemic consequences of their actions before they impact the real world.
But to sustain that kind of technological and social integration, you have to change how you prepare the next generation. That brings us to phase 4, which requires an overhaul in education. The goal here is breaking down rigid disciplinary silos. We need multidisciplinary training that integrates ethics, sustainability, economics, and technological innovation into single curriculums. The real-world challenges we face don't respect the arbitrary boundaries of college majors, so our education shouldn't either.
And finally, phase 5. All of this has to get its boots dirty. It has to move out of the laboratory and into the territory. This is the ultimate reality test, applying these models to actual cities and communities. The text gives some amazing examples of this, like the concept of Villages 5.0 or Borgi 5.0.
Yeah, I love that part.
It's an initiative to reactivate small, dying towns by turning them into archipelago cities. You merge the ability to do remote smart working with the high quality of life found in small communities.
The territorial application also includes Health 5.0. In these 5.0 villages, they implement non-invasive robotic capsules to monitor the vital signs of the elderly.
That sounds a bit sci-fi, but in a good way.
It really does. Instead of an elderly person having to live in a clinical facility hooked up to wires, passive environmental scanners in their own home can predict health crises by analyzing changes in their daily routines or vitals. It preserves their human autonomy and dignity while still providing cutting-edge medical oversight.
As these projects are implemented in the territory, there is a crucial feedback loop built into the ecosystem. They purposefully collect best practices, but they also obsessively collect bad practices. Why focus on the failures?
Because evolution requires error. The goal of this ecosystem isn't to judge people or hand out gold stars. In any complex system, friction and failure are inevitable. A bad practice is a vital mine of information, much like the black box on an airplane. We only make aviation safer by rigorously studying the crashes. Bad practices tell you exactly where the friction lies between your theoretical map and the actual territory. If a community hides its failures out of shame, the system cannot learn and adapt.
So what does this all mean? We've covered game theory, digital twins, the biological reality of empathy, and the reorganization of entire cities. But if you are listening to this, the most important takeaway is that you are not a passive passenger on this ship. The transition from the competitive I paradigm to the collaborative WE paradigm isn't a software update that just happens to you while you sit in your cabin.
No, it takes work.
It is an act of choice. Your everyday decisions, your refusal to succumb to indifference, your willingness to look at the broader systemic impact of your actions, that is what actually steers this vessel.
The author provides a powerful reminder that technology itself is just a neutral amplifier. It is a prism. If we shine a light of competitive individualism through our algorithms and platforms, they will effortlessly amplify inequality and fragmentation.
Right.
But if we shine a light of structured collaboration through them, they will amplify shared value. The defining innovation of our time isn't going to be a new microchip. It has to be cultural and ethical. We have to actively engineer the infrastructure of trust through transparency, consistency, and daily responsibility.
Which leaves us with one final, frankly provocative thought to mull over. The author argues that this ship is fundamentally connected. A breach in the hull eventually drowns everyone, regardless of what class of cabin you were sleeping in. But as we attempt this massive structural transition from I to WE, what happens in the interim?
That's the real tension.
Think about it. If part of the ship successfully adopts structured collaboration, digital twins, and empathetic AI, while another part of the crew stubbornly clings to individualistic zero-sum competition, could the very process of evolving actually cause the ship to temporarily tear itself apart? How do you maintain the integrity of a shared vessel when the crew is operating on two entirely different maps of reality? You can feel that faint vibration in the hull, the engines are still running, but the question is, are we finally ready to look at the whole ship?